Test. 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. Check. Check. 1, 2. Mic check. 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. Check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. the industry, the executive director.
We have an online audience. Director and Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Mrs. Noye Ayeni. Thank you so much, ma'am, for all the hard work that you put in. She doesn't get this work done alone. She has a team of directors that work. I'd like us to recognize all the directors, starting from the Director, Product Development Department, Mrs. Evelyn Obidike, and the Director, Export Development and Incentives, Mr. Andy Abim-Ute. We also have the Director, Corporate Services Department, and she is Mrs. Esther Ibora. The Director, State Offices Coordinating Department, Arnold Jackson. And we have the Director, Market Access Department, the following show. Give recognitions to all on site here, but I will give this, and he will be our lead presenter for today. Please also recognize and appreciate the services and presence of the Export Desk Officer of the Nigerian Shippers Council, who is also joining us online, Mrs. Juliana Obiageli Saka. I also have joining us to speak on container shipping, freight forwarding, and logistics services, the CEO, Kobo Logistics. Please let's appreciate Engineer Tosin Adeshibe. He would also join us virtually. And also joining us virtually is the Group Executive Director, Commercial and Business Development, NACO. With a warm round of applause, let's appreciate Mr. Sahid Lasisi. Also from the Nigerian Ports Authority, we have Mr. Charles Okagaram, who is joining us virtually, and he will be speaking on the roles of the Nigerian Ports Authority in export logistics chain. We have present here on the table, sitting right next to the ED CEO, the technical advisor to the President on economic and financial inclusion in the office of the Vice President. Please, with a very warm round of applause, let's welcome Dr. Zauro Nuruddin Abubakar. He's seated right here in person. Thank you for your time, sir. We also have from the Nigerian Customs Services, 2 officers. I think one will be speaking with us and one is also here to give his support. So we have with us the Assistant Comptroller, M.H. Haruna, sitting right up here. Let's appreciate him. and is accompanied by the Chief Superintendent Officer, Mr. John Edashi. You are welcome, sir. And to share a success story with us and tell us how she has worked with NEPC and how far she has gone in the subject matter of today's event, please join me to appreciate the CEO, Box and Peak Nigeria. She is Ume Gabriela Nkiru, and she's seated right here. You are all welcome to this laudable event. Like I said when I started out, it is the fourth in the series of the Re-Energized webinar. We started this journey on March 21st, 2024, and we had the first of its kind, which we tagged the Re-Energized series. And in that first edition, we introduced NEPC to you. You spoke to all our directors. We told you what we're about and what you can expect from us under the Operation Double Your Export campaign that we are running. And it was a successful webinar. We went on again in the 2.0 to educate our exporters on documentation and procedures that are necessary for export. That particular series got a lot of feedback, and people were educated and enlightened, and a lot of questions were answered and clarifications were done in 2.0. This was in May. And we moved on to August to run the 3.0 series, where we talked about market access and how you could leverage on all the key trade corridors. That was another very solid success, and that has brought us to the 4.0 Re-Energized series. Please, a warm round of applause. It's been a journey that started in March, and here we are in December, gradually winding down to the end of 2024. And today, we have decided to look at an aspect of exports that is very critical to whatever you do in the export community. Today, we're talking about the imperatives of logistics to a successful export. And we will try as much as we can, even though it's a webinar series, to give you a practical perspective. That's why you have customs here, that's why you have MPA here, and that's why you have someone who is a player in the field, the SPT Logistics CEO, speaking to us today. And we want to believe that by the time this series will all get to the rest of our day. So to kick off,
good morning.
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
okay, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, the Honorable Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, the Technical Assistant to the President, Office of the VP, Abubakar, Nuruddin Zahra, Dr. Zahra Nuruddin Abubakar. Thank you for coming. Our wonderful resource people, too many to mention. Some are assigned online, some are here with us physically, from Kolawe to Mrs. Juliana Saka to Tosin Adeshipe, Sahil Asisi, Mr. Charles Okaja, Haruna Bansi, Ume Gabriela Nkiru, and many others. So let me welcome you. And my directors, good morning. The deputy directors here present and assistant directors, and indeed the management and staff of NEPC. Let me deeply appreciate the people I call my crew members, the NEPC Connect crew members, for all that they do, for setting up this. This is the fourth on the series, like the MC spoke about, and I want to thank them for their innovativeness. Some of these topics come from you, from our exporters. We don't generate those topics. It's by popular. When we finish, we take a poll and we get information from them, and we have this. So this year, this is the last for this year. This is the fourth one for the year. I would like to say that this is an opportunity or a very good way for us to close the year. I would like to say that also that a lot of people have benefited from this online. The next year offers us a good opportunity for us as NEPC to do much more. We've trained people, are going to handhold a lot of people, and begin to see them move up along the value chain. We'd like to see people that are not exporting begin to export. And we'd like to see people that are exporting scale up their production and their operations for them to export more. So I think this is one of the things that we're doing. We'll have opportunity also to engage you in different areas, in services, in inclusiveness. We're going to have the one for women. We'll open you up to different things, different initiatives, and different opportunities. This is one thing that we believe to our women, especially where that Dr. Okonjo-Iweala, the Director General of WTO, launched that in Abu Dhabi earlier in the year, I think in February. And there's going to be grants, there's going to be empowerment for the women, especially women in digital economy. And they are going to select about three to four countries. We've applied, we've scaled through the first hurdle, and we've done the interview, and by God's grace, if we're able to win it, the women in Nigeria have it. Huge opportunity, not just for women, for everything. Huge opportunity, not just for women, for everyone. The SMEs is a huge on top of it, so everyone. The SMEs is a huge on top of it, so let everyone open it. The inclusiveness part of it. There is a webinar organized by NEPC Connect, closer to you, our expert closer to you, our exporters, and make export information more accessible. Today we'll be discussing the theme, the imperative of logistics to successful export. You will agree with me that logistics is a major issue, and pricing, products in the global market. Different things, the tunnel also leads to people that have you, their thoughts, and to guide you along your journey, the export journey. So it's important that we pay serious questions that we cannot answer in NEPC. We can always refer to them. So these are experts. When you go to schools abroad, maybe Harvard, you pay a lot, but we're bringing it down to everyone at no cost. So let's take great opportunity, take advantage of this opportunity. Therefore, export logistics is a critical component of the supply chain that can significantly affect the success of export operations. Extreme logistics not only benefit exporters, but also contribute to our national economy by optimizing our export logistics. We can create jobs, increase understanding of the basic export logistics, help you to navigate the complexities of export logistic practices and procedures, equip you with the knowledge you need to effectively manage your logistic operations, and ensure that your products are delivered efficiently and on time. We are going to highlight the potential risks and the challenges that you may encounter in export logistics in today's webinar. To listen, participate, lend your expertise, for the resource people, lend your expertise and resources to this critical topic. Therefore, together we can transform Nigeria into an export-driven economy and a beacon of success in the global market. But let me round up by saying that Nigeria is blessed, and we know it. So if all of us put our hands together, we will change the narrative, and we will still remain the giant of Africa. So let us begin to think big. Let us begin to dream big. And let us exploit and explore the opportunities and the potentials that are inherent in our country. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, the ED CEO, for that opening remark. If you were not expectant before that opening remark, I'm sure that by now your ears are tingling and you're very, very expectant to listen to what has to be said today. I would like to note that as we go on in the process, if you have questions that are burning on your mind, kindly send them to the chat box. We have people in the background that will pick it up and ensure that those questions are answered as much as time permits. A lead speaker who is joining us virtually, and he will be speaking to us on the topic, the imperatives of logistics to a successful export. I told you, he's done this, sharing some of these practicalities with us this morning. I would like us to welcome virtually to join us the CEO. Do we have him logged in? While we're waiting for him to join, I'd like to make please, we're trying to get Mr. Kola on your screen. If he's not online, can we take somebody else? He's online, so we'll wait for him. Okay, so while we wait, I would like to say to every woman that is logged in, I don't know if you listened carefully to the DED CEO's opening remark, and she was mentioning something about the women exporters in digital economy and how we have passed the first stage as the Nigerian hub. So if you're a woman and you are on this webinar series, begin to put your house together, begin to put your acts together, because next webinar, like she has promised, we'll be going in depth into this particular initiative by the DG of WTO and what parts you can play and how you can access the funds. When women put down, begin to look at what you need to do in your business to make sure that when this Mr. Kola up down. Mr. Kola, where we welcome you. If you can hear me, kindly speak so that we'll know that you're with us. Can we unmute him, please, ICT? Can you hear him? Do you have him? Okay. Can we take okay, so next online, while we wait for the technical we'll get back our lead speaker for today, 30th of the Nigerian Shippers Council, talking to us on the port economic regulator. She's also joining virtually. I hope we have that end sorted out. If we have that end from someone on site. I will sort out the online issues. So, go to the technical advisor, President on Economic and Financial Inclusion in the office of the Vice President. He'll be speaking to us on the Nigerian economy in 2025 and beyond. Please let's appreciate and welcome to the microphone Dr. Zauro Nuruddin Abubakar. You are welcome, sir.
Lying in that new gospel, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have a national blueprint. And that national blueprint I've loved this presentation comes.
There's a small technical issue. I can hardly see the venue. And correctly now. I'll need some assistance, so I'll just have to go ahead like that. Yeah.
Sir, we can hear you right now.
Like that.
Hello, Mr. Kola, sir. We can hear you now. We can hear you now, sir.
I'm not hearing him. I can hear from your side, but I'm not hearing from you. I'm not even seeing her. Say it's only the people on the teams that can hear me. The people on the ground can't hear me.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me from this point?
Oh, can you hear me, sir?
Listen to this.
There's a bit of disconnect.
Okay, all right. Right. I think I'll just need to continue the way it is right now. My name is Barrister Kola Awe. I manage and operate XPT Logistics International Limited. I'd like to stand on the existing protocol, not without acknowledging the presence and recognition of the CEO of the Nigerian Export. I was unable to hear the names on the table, but I could recognize Mrs. Evelyn WDK. You're welcome, madam. Good to see you here. I recognize Mr. Intube himself and some other few personalities on the table. I recognize you all. Today's topic is the imperative of logistics to a successful export. Here present to operate operations. It takes the success. It takes the success. The success basically predicated on the success. Basically predicated on the logistics service that is being deployed. No matter how good he has been able to put necessary things in place, export transaction can be considered as successful. As successful. An exporter of sesame seed or cocoa or anything can handle the kind of export documentation. Export documentation originates from logistics processes. originates from logistics processes. Now you can see how difficult it is here. 80% of export exporters, aside from the multinational big-size exporters that are very cumbersome with this, try to believe that it is okay if they commit their export transaction 100% in import, because Nigeria is generally an import-oriented nation. And so export is a new terrain for most of them along the line. Now, we can't say that Nigeria has not experienced its own share of logistics. Particularly during the COVID. We can talk about the gridlock. There was a time that there was a lot of congestion at the port. And people flying and sitting very bad. Basically, the infrastructural provision that supports logistics were not typically in place. A little bit of difference is still more coming up. That has been put in place to support the logistics. Processes for export. We also have the NEPC project, which is the domestic transaction operated basically by sea export. 65 to 70% of global exports are carried out by sea, and between 30 to 25 to 30% e-commerce. Today, transaction is about $100 billion. But there is a statistics that dollars. It means that logistics is the heartbeat for the movement of goods. Global trade cannot operate without we moved from 90 in 2016. The importance of this is that Nigeria has been able to taking place in export. It is good for us to understand what is export, what is logistics. The movement or the process of planning and moving goods from one origin to another origin. Not taking into consideration that it's extremely very difficult to just in logistics that can help any exporter to be able to gain and effectively export his product. The first one is cost effective. The logistics services deployed must be effective. Pre-COVID-19, the cost of shipment, the cost of transportation were very affordable. We're getting a 20-foot container for $600, a 40-foot container for $900. But that is not the same thing right now. The price has gone up astronomically because of COVID-19 and the global economic recession that is going on everywhere. So the cost is highly bring down these costs. It does not relate to ship to the sea alone. Even by road, the cost of transportation has gone so high. Pre-COVID-19, we could do Lagos to Ghana for 800,000, 900,000 naira now. Currently, Lagos to Ghana is about 4 million, 4.5 million. And if you're going to Burkina Faso, you'll be talking about 5 million. And if you're going to Niger, you'll be talking about 6 million. These are very high fee. So an average exporter that is operating within that range should be able to take into consideration how can I reduce my cost. These are the dynamics we're going to be looking at in some of these slides. The next one is the timely delivery. Every transaction is premised on time, and most of the importers that we have, there are middle and brokers that are operating on behalf of manufacturers. And manufacturers intend to have their raw materials as at when issues of claims, issues of rejection and issues of breach of contract because he has not been able to meet up with the necessary timeline as contained in the agreement. Then another feature that is also very key is appropriate form of logistics. It is unfortunate to see that sometimes exporters will use the wrong form of logistics to export their product. One that we can all remember is having to export yam in a refrigerated container. There was no way something would not happen when you put yam in a refrigerated container, or when you try to put some items that are not supposed to be in a particular technical package and you put them in that particular technical package. They are bound to be export. So an average exporter must be able to take into consideration what kind of packaging am I deploying? Is the packaging appropriate for that particular commodity? We'll be looking at some of them in the forthcoming slides. Then critically also is the export documentation. The heartbeat of export is also the documentation. And this documentation, like I said earlier, originates from logistics processes. Like, for example, the NSP, the ENSP was put in place in order to facilitate logistics and also to facilitate the repatriation of funds, and also for data purposes. Logistics is embedded into that. The certificate of origin is a logistics provision when it gets to the country of destination. So there's no way documentation is not key. And when there is an error in documentation process, it eventually cascades down to the logistics services. So an average exporter must be very diligent in understanding export documentation, particularly the export documentation that relates to logistics services. Then consistency in the quality exported and quality received, which is the heartbeat of definition of logistics. The goods that left Lagos must arrive in Mexico or must arrive in China the same way, in the same quality that it has left Lagos. And that's a huge tax in the logistics services. So here we're talking about planning in terms of warehousing, planning in terms of the packaging material, both the primary, secondary, and the technical packaging material. And then planning in order to sustain the same quality. If, for example, a cashew nut leaves Nigeria at about 10% moisture content, or sesame seed that's about 6-7% moisture content, that 6-7% must arrive with an average of 7.1 or 6.1. If it extends beyond that, then there are going to be contractual issues. Now, how do you deploy logistics processes to ensure that this is being done? It is also very key features in logistics services. The same thing for manufactured product, particularly when it comes to road products. Good like it ought to be like in other country. For example, Nigeria is said to have about 200,000 kilometers of road, and less than 60% of those, less than 40% of those roads are tarred roads. So that roads that are untarred, and it means that if trucks are passing through those roads, there is no way there will not be a key thing. And at the end of the time they see the goods that have arrived, then the customer might say, no, I don't want to take this good. I'll give a typical example. We just did a shipment to DJ recently, and out of five trucks, we have a rejection of about 25 cartons. Why? Basically because it was a road transaction. If it were to be a sea transaction, we wouldn't have such a reject. And the consequences of road rejection were put on us as a logistics provider. Now, the last one that we need to consider also is the features is compliant to the terms of the contract. One key area of compliance in this term is delivery, the delivery time, the quality specifications, and the trade terms. These are key areas of consideration for any exporter to consider when carrying out a shipment that wants to be successful in that particular shipment. Now, we've looked at the key areas, the key features in the definition of logistics: cost effectiveness, timely delivery, appropriate form of logistics, export documentation, consistency in quality in the forthcoming slides. Now, exporting companies, we also need, it's important that we break down these exporting companies into three, because the three will determine the nature of form and type of logistics that's been deployed. For example, an exporting company, who are the formal exporting company registered with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. These are registered companies with the Export Promotion Council, and these are companies informally. They deploy a groupage system of logistics. They don't do the normal process of logistics. They deploy a groupage system where ABC goods and D goods are packed together. And in this place, there's a lot of challenges in logistics services that comes with that. This says the same thing of an average informal exporter who don't carry out documentation in their export process. Now let's look at for your export to be successful. I itemized about 6, 7 areas, key areas, and I'll be looking at them from the practical perspective, so that you can understand what is really happening in the logistics industry. The first one is like the export procedure. We said compliance to the extant laws on export procedure and documentation impact on logistics success. Now, what do you mean by compliance to export to the extant laws? We have several laws created by the Federal Republic of Nigeria to ensure that export is being conducted formally. And one of those is NSP. An exporter must understand the process of processing the NSP under the tradesystem.gov.ng. An exporter must also be extremely very diligent in filling the NSP. Key areas of diligence is in NSP states. There's a place in the NSP that says port of shipment. If you make the mistake of inserting the wrong for the freight forwarder or yourself to write to the PSI and request for change of port of shipment, that alone will impact on logistics process. Then we have the pre-shipment inspection also. The pre-shipment inspection stipulates that all export must be inspected. Now we look at also there's an extant rules on export permits. For example, for you to be able to export some certain products, there's no need. You need to get an export permit. If the permit is not in place, it will inhibit on the logistics services. The customs will not be able to clear the goods if you don't get the permit. NAFDAC will not be able to release the good if you don't get the permit. NDLA will not be able to release the goods. So there's a need for an exporter to understand that these documents for permits are very and extremely critical in the process of export. Another critical document that impacts on logistics very well is the Federal Produce Inspection Services document. This document is a fundamental document. It's called the objections we're having today is because exporters are not going in accordance with the extant laws on export procedures. It said all agro export must originate from a warehouse. And it says that warehouse must have been registered by the Nigerian Federal Produce Inspection Services. This is the law. The process of and they are examined. Fumigation takes place in that same warehouse. And when the goods are going out, the goods are also examined. Every process that makes the goods to be of quality are to take place in that warehouse. But what we have today, it's not that. And this affects logistics process, where people are fumigating in container, either with phosphide, and the residue of the container of the phosphide stays on the goods. This has led to a lot of rejections in Europe of our beans and of our sesame seed. The number of sesame seed that are being rejected, it's massive. Also, laws like NEPC, they said that this certificate is a global certificate under the IPPIS that must be obtained before you can export. This point is this: if these documents are not in place, if these documents are not perfectly in order, it inhibits logistics process. An exporter must and should how to process these areas. We see people still calling on a freight forwarder to assist them with the NSP, to assist them with the certificate of origin, to assist them with several documents. So that should be taken into consideration. The second area for a deployment of a perfect logistics services that can lead to understanding the import procedure and practice in the country of import. This practice destination inspection, it means any goods that is coming into Nigeria is being inspected on arrival in Nigeria. But there are several countries. That means the export product or commodity will have been inspected here before it gets to the country of import. Imagine a situation where an exporter, which happens on a regular basis, do not understand the import procedure of the country and decide to ship the goods, and on arrival of the goods is being surcharged, sometimes as much as 25% of the FOB value. So an exporter should understand is this country a PSI country, and if it's a PSI country, is there any independent accredited agent in Nigeria like SGS, Veritas, SGS, no issues along the line. Recall that a effective and efficient logistics process is only to disrupt that process. It are to be avoided and to make sure that they do not come up. So a PSI situation and you do not carry out the pre-shipment inspection then becomes an issue. Then what about the tax regulation? You also, we have documents like the EU GSP regs. For example, you're exporting to the EU, you need to get a GSP certificate from the Ministry of Trade and Investment. These are key documents that you need to get. If those documents are not in place, the commodity will not be cleared in the country of import. We have the developing countries trade scheme, which is particularly since UK came out of the EU, they developed this one for their own in order to replace the UNIDO untagged general system of preferences. Then another key area is compliance with international best practices and procedures. This is key in planning for export. What does the best practice say? Under the International Maritime Organization, in assessing technical packages, which are the containers, every container has capacity that it can load. Every container, a 20-foot container, the maximum capacity to be loaded is 18 metric tons. A 40-foot is over 28 metric tons, which simply means that whatever you're loading should not exceed this one. That's why in 2017, the International Maritime Organization came out with SOLA, Safety on Land and Sea, when they found out that people were forcefully quoting wrong weights. They have about 23 metric tons or 25 metric tons, and they will quote on their documents 20 metric tons, and vessels were sinking on IC. So it is important that they understand what is the maximum weight and what is not the maximum weight. The consequences of this, if you overload the containers, by the time you get to destination, they are going to split the container into two, and they're going to charge you for splitting them into two. Even the auditors that will come to supervise it, you will be responsible for the payment of those auditors, and that means it will disrupt the logistics processes. We should also overlook the International Chambers of Commerce. The International Chambers of Commerce regulates two critical elements in international trade. One, the payment terms. Two, the trade terms. And the trade terms is extremely very key because it regulates the responsibility and liabilities of parties in the movement of goods, which is logistics. So appropriate trade terms must be used for any transaction. We'll talk more about that as we go. Then another one that you need, an average exporter should also consider the best form of freight. And the best form of freight. To get the best form of freight, you have to consider the package, the size, the packaging, the weight, the type of product, and the safety of the product. We know the major form of trade. We will talk about that logistics services that can be deployed, the air, the road, the sea, the rail. Talking about the rail, Nigeria currently, we've not been able to deploy rail. South Africa currently has about 33,000 kilometers of railroads, while we have about 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers of railroad. So we're still looking up for us to be able to deploy rail services within the West Africa sub-region. Then warehousing are also very key terms of in planning. Warehousing are key. Warehousing does not just mean dumping goods in a warehouse. Warehousing means understanding commodities that you're warehousing. It's unfortunate when you see a warehouse that have cashew nuts that attract nectar, and then you see some other commodities that the nectar can be impacted on. So you must know exactly what products and which products are you putting together in that particular warehouse. Lastly, selecting an appropriate logistics and transport company. I said earlier that one of the basic challenge is most of the freight forwarder that we have specialize more on import than export. So when they get an export transaction, they treat it just the same way like an import transaction. Many of us must have had so many stories. Export is being conducted. There is no certificate of origin. Export is being conducted. There is no NEQA certificate. Even with my experience, I have also had an issue on that during the COVID period when the roads were blocked. we had to do a shipment through Port Harcourt, and I had to call a freight forwarder friend, and I asked him, please, you're going to push this because I can't get to Port Harcourt because there's a blockage. And he said, okay, he's going to do it. And I explained every inch of the process to him. And eventually he said he has done everything. He sent me the NEQS certificate. And at the end of the day, when the goods got there, the NEQS certificate was false, was fake. And I called him and I asked him, where did you get it from? He said, the same place that we used to get it. And I said, but I told you, you need to go to the secretariat and go to the NEQS office there to get it. He said, no, he didn't go there. So it was an arduous task for us to be able to overcome this one. This simplifies the challenges a lot of exporters will face when not using or selecting the best or the appropriate logistics firm. What do you need to take into consideration for you to have a successful export and in the selection of your logistics firm? First, you need to consider the experience and the exposure of that particular logistics firm. What is the experience? How long has he been in the business? What is his exposure to commodities? What is the exposure to the sector of export? Is he exposed to import? If he's more exposed to import, then you need to create a caution. If he's more exposed to export, then you know that you're okay, you're in safe hands. Then what product is he exposed to? Is it the manufactured product? Maybe all he has done, all his experience life is in manufactured goods. He has not touched agro commodity, nor has he touched solid minerals, nor has he had anything to do with wet cargo. Then even the country that is operating in, is he only operating in Africa, or is operating in Asia, and is operating all over the world? So these are key areas that an exporter should need to look into, because the success also lies on the experience and exposure of this freight forwarder. Then next is, how conversant is it with the practice and procedure as it relates to export and import? Does he understand the procedure for export? Thankfully, we are having the ENSP. Thankfully, we are having regulations in the ports, thanks to the Shippers Council. Thankfully, MPA is doing a lot at the port. But before now, it's possible to ship a whole container without documentation. It's possible to ship a whole container without documentation. But with the few process put in place now, then everything, the people are bound to go through that process. Without NXP, you cannot do any meaningful export, even though till now some people are still bypassing those rules and still exporting without NXP, particularly in the informal sector. So an exporter needs to know whether he's conversant with the procedure. Does he understand the prohibited items? Does he understand that there's a need for me to get a permit? If you understand, does he know where I can get those permits from? If he knows where I can get, does he know the process for me to be able to get those permits? Does he understand the documents that I need to have a successful export transaction? These are very key areas that one has to look at when considering that. So then there's several other areas that we need to look at. We need to look at the job history, the structure and the infrastructure of that particular person, in the area of specialization, and if he has a foreign relationship or any other. Key area for consideration for sea export. There are several areas that anybody that is exporting in sea should look at. The proximity of the country. Is the country a coastal country? Is it a landlocked country? What is the cost of freight? What is the transit time? What is the nature of the commodity? He has to consider the regularity of vessel if you're going by shipping line. How often does the vessel come? What is the transit time for the vessel? Is it a direct vessel or a vessel that is going to go on transit? He has to understand ECOWAS treaties also to be able to get a clear vision. And when an exporter is going by road, you need to understand the trucking system, the inter-road transit scheme. You need to understand a little bit on border clearances and tariff and non-tariff barriers. Then the type of trucks are also very critical. There are several types of trucks. We have the 40-foot, we have 45, we have 43, we have 50, and everything impacts on the cost also. And your understanding of trucks will save you a lot of money. Security and safety are also very, very key. Air freight comes up in 3 different dimensions, either by cargo and consolidators, or by passenger airline cargo, or by company cargo. At this point, I've been directed to round up, and I'll be rounding up with those items that can go by air cargo: perishable products, lightweight products, small products, products with short expiry date, and long distance destination product, and products and commodities that requires prompt delivery. They can either be light or heavy. I want to thank you very much. Limited time, I'm so sorry that I can't see the all and I can hear from the all too. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kolawe. We sincerely apologize for the technical issues that you experienced, but I would like to let you know that we heard you, and about 90% of your presentation was quite clear from this end, and we got the points that you made very clearly. He spoke to the key areas that you should concentrate on: logistics. He talked about packaging, documentation, quality of goods, and compliance to the terms of the contract. And he tried to get in depth into these key areas. I know that time didn't permit him to touch on everything he would have loved to touch on, but he did good justice to that topic. So we appreciate you so much, sir. And so moving on very quickly, we would be hearing from the Export Desk Officer from the Nigerian Shippers Council. She'll be speaking to us for 15 minutes. She will join virtually, and she'll be speaking on the topic, the Port Economic Regulator. So let's welcome online, with a warm round of applause, Mrs. Juliana Obiageli Saka, as she has the microphone for 15 minutes. Thank you, ma. We welcome you online.
Thank you very much, MC. I hope my voice is audible enough.
Yes, it is. You're clear.
Everyone. Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I wish to appreciate the Nigerian Export Promotion Council for giving us this opportunity to speak on this wonderful topic, the role of Port Economic Regulator in exportation. Brother, my fellow brother from Nigerian Ports Authority, Mr. Charles Okaga, the Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Mrs. Noye Ayeni. Well done, ma. You're really making the ways for women, actually. Thank you. So my presentation, I won't bore you people that much. I will just hit straight to the point. The role of the Nigerian Shippers Council as a port economic regulator in exportation. Then I will give two practical examples to wrap up the presentation. So as the port economic regulator, Shippers Council is very much concerned about the costs of exportation, the cost of the shipping services to exportation. Very, very concerned about it, in the sense that if the cost to export is high, our export will not be competitive. And we are not the only countries exporting. We are competing even with our neighboring countries. The introduction of AFTA, we are supposed to be competing. So we look at the cost element and ensure that it is not above what is expected, and ensure that for every charge that the shipping line, the terminal operators levy on our exporters. To Nigerian Export Promotion Council, they are exporters. Or to Nigerian Shippers Council, they are shippers. So for every charge levied on them, there should be a service tied to it. If you're charging for documentation, what are the services are you rendering to these exporters for that documentation? These services, are they in line with the services you're rendering? Your costs, is it in line with the service you're rendering? So Nigerian Shippers Council provide a forum for interaction and the protection of interests of all stakeholders. That's the importers and the exporters, the shipping companies, the terminal operators, the consolidators, on matters affecting shipments, that's import and export to and from Nigeria. We advise the federal government on matters relating to freight rates, terms of shipment, port charges, and generally on problems of shipping industry. The general problem that the shipping industry are facing that will resolve or that will affect the cost of doing business. Shippers Council takes up that. Then we handle the stabilization of freight rates and related charges. We look at the general tariff structure. The council monitors the local shipping charges, such as the documentation fee, the container deposit, the demurrage charge, so that they are acceptable within the region. You all are aware that we are competing with Togo, Ghana, Lomé. We are all actors. During the zero reject policy of Nigerian's produce, the Nigerian Shippers Council carried out regular sensitization and enlightenment program to educate our exporters on the best practices to conduct their export in order to avoid rejection. Barrister Kola Awe happens to be one of our resource persons in some of this enlightenment. Then the Nigerian Shippers Council, in collaboration with the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, worked rigorously in the establishment of domestic export warehouses across the geopolitical zone of the country. This domestic export warehouse is a one-stop shop for all export documentation, certification, so that from the warehouse, the export container will have unhindered access to the port for shipment without further inspection. Because it's expected that the warehouse will have a full clear of all agencies involved in the export ecosystem, like the custom, the pre-shipment inspection agent, the Federal Produce Inspection Service, and all that. They would have done all the work there, just to make it like a one-stop shop before they have access to the port. And you're aware with me that the Nigerian Ports Authority equally has what we call the Export Processing Terminal. And the Lily Pond Command has been made the Export Command. So we've worked with NPA. They are so actually collaborating seamlessly. They worked with us to ensure that when these export cargoes, when the export cargoes come from the hinterland, this export processing terminal, there is synergy in terms of the services they render there, the charges that they are not billed or charged different, because you must have paid most of those charges at the domestic export warehouse. So you are not expected to come and pay. You only to use that facility as a point where you can key into the ATO to get your call up to go into the port. Shippers Council worked with NPA and Export Promotion Council to make that possible. Then we have the Border Information Center. Nigerian Shippers Council established Border Information Center at the border town. We have one at Semeye. We have the one that's the border between Nigeria and Seme, border between Nigeria and the Republic of Benin. Then we have the one at Ufun, that's the border between Nigeria and Cameroon. We have another one with the border between Nigeria and Niger. What are these centers for? We discovered that most exporters don't even know they are into international trade, that the business they are carrying out is international business. They just see those border towns, people just walk across and trade. So we are using that border information center to provide information and facilitate smooth movement of exports through the land borders, and equally to assist to formalize the informal trade. The NFE also handles complaints, export-related complaints. We have a strong ADR, alternative dispute resolution, within the port sector. If you have genuine complaints, all you need to do is to, like I said, I'll give two examples for want of time, just two. The first one is a complaint from USAB Multi-Choice Limited in respect of damaged container export of black cowpea, these black eye beans, worth $105 million. Then the documentation aspect of it and the processing cost was $1,655,000. This black IP got damaged. Why? Due to delay by ICNL terminal in Kaduna and MEX Nigeria Limited in shipping out these containers to the port of Jebel Ali Port in Dubai, that's in United Arab Emirates. The complainant requested the assistance of the Nigerian Shippers Council in recovering all funds spent on the beans and even the export processing. Shippers Council had to go into full investigation of all agencies involved in the entire export processing, looking at the pre-shipment inspection agents, the Federal Produce Inspection Service, and at a point we discovered that those containers were actually placed on hold by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. But that hold was for a month. Even when they released the containers that they are good to go, they can be exported, ICNL did not move down the containers to Lagos for shipment. By the time they finally did, the beans were all bad. So we are talking of rejection. Rejection at times are due to some of these encumbrances, our wholesome practices, bureaucracy involved in it. But when we looked at the technicality of it, we discovered that, yes, there were actually delays from the drug law enforcement agency. So we made the ICNL to refund at least 70%. Let the shipper not go out of business. Let him not suffer the loss alone. We made him to refund 70% of the cost of shipment, while the exporter unfortunately had to bear the 30% cost of it. Then another strong point I will raise here again is that an exporter has 14 export containers, and the terminal operator, that's the TICT, Tinkan Island Container Terminal, imposed delivery charges on those 14 export containers, and the exporter ran to Shippers Council. We looked at it. TICT is not supposed to charge delivery charge for export containers. What are your services? What service are you rendering to these export containers that you're charging delivery charge? We compelled the terminal operator to refund the amount collected as delivery charge for those 14 containers. And export said, we don't even want to see such charge in your tariff nomenclature. It's not among the approved charges for terminal operators, neither for shipping lines. So in essence, I'm appealing to the exporters on ground. Some of them may not really know that when you have issues that borders on the charges you're being levied by the shipping lines, by the terminal operators, even the truckers, we have approved rates using distance for it. If you are being charged excessively, please feel free to use our complaints portal, complaints@shipperscouncil.gov.ng, and that issue will be looked into in order to save our exporters and to ensure that we have a competitive export business in the sector. I hope I've not spoken beyond the time given to me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ma. You actually stayed very much within time. Thank you for keeping to time and even leaving a bit of extra. And also thank you for all the points that you made. I think at the point where you were talking about the means to reaching you for complaints, we lost you a bit. So maybe if you could help us type that in the chat box so that the ICT team can flash it for participants to know the correct address or me because we lost network. And I'm sure maybe it happened to quite a number of people. So please put that information in the chat box so that we can also flash it for the participants to have that handy. Thank you for your time, and thank you for educating us. And also thank you for the good work that the Nigerian Shippers Council is doing with all the critical stakeholders collaborating with you. So quickly, we go on to the next presentation. This would happen for 10 minutes, and we'll be looking at container shipping, freight forwarding, and logistics services. And to handle this session for the next 10 minutes is the Chief Technology Officer of Kobo Logistics. Please, let's welcome Adeshibe. Please, let's appreciate him as he takes the floor.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Mr. Tosin. We can hear you loud and clear.
You can hear me? All right. Thank you very much. Okay, all protocols duly observed. I want to extend my gratitude to the Nigeria Export Council for this opportunity to speak at this event. I also recognize the presence of my fellow speakers as well. Okay, let's dive right into it. I'll be speaking on container shipment, freight forwarding, and logistic business, but with the goal of infusing technology into this particular sector. As you know that logistics has been in existence for a very long period of time, and it has also facilitated trade. However, the form of trade and logistics has evolved over the years, making it imperative for business owners to embrace technology in the freight forwarding business. If you know, what I'm trying to say is that logistics is not new. We've been doing this for decades. Form of logistics has happened. There's a time that we used to use horses, cars have come, plane have come, there's shipment and all. With all this comes technology advancement. So it's important that we see that technology advancement comes with logistics. So I'll be speaking on why is it important to incorporate technology into the business that we do, which is logistics, right? And I think it's important for all business owners to understand this. So why is this possible? Why is it important? Technology helps us streamline processes, right? It enhances efficiency, it improves communication, it allows you to automate your business, reduce manual process, and ultimately optimize your logistic business. So today, I know that we are doing business in different forms, but once you bring in technology into your business, there's a whole lot that can happen, right, within the freight forwarding and logistics service. You will see that you'll be able to enhance all your operation. Things like real-time tracking can come into place, tracking of shipments, things around delivery, cost savings, and all. These are one of the importance of embracing technology. So my goal here is just to tell everyone that while we are thinking of logistics, let's not put technology at the back burner. We're in 2025. It's important that we place technology in front of us. And as we keep evolving in our business, in the next 10 to 20 years, technology will be the mainstream. So if you are thinking technology, if you are thinking of logistics today, it's important that we also think of technology. I'll try to itemize some of the key things for business owners on how they can get started on technology, because sometimes it seems that technology is far-fetched, and we all focus on our day-to-day operation. We all focus on, okay, I need to move a good from point A to point B, and the pressure allows us to skip certain things, and we tend to all do these things manually, right? But getting on technology, it's not really so much of a big deal. I think one of the most important things in this business is that you need to identify who are the key players within the tech space. So there are a lot of companies that have come up who have embraced technology and who are actually trying to pioneer that space and provide solutions to business owners. So as a business owner, I think the most important thing would be, okay, how do I get started on this journey, or how do I get started in bringing tech into my business? And that's one of the key things that we do at Cobalt 360 as well. We're predominantly a technology company focused on solving supply chain problems across the different logistics vertical. Right? So if you identify with a technology partner, once you can identify with that partner, understand their business, evaluate the services that they offer, and try to see how that services can be streamlined to your business. It's also important that you also access your own current operation, right? So while you are thinking of technology, it's important that you understand that your own business, you need to access your business properly. What am I currently doing? What are my plans now? What are my plans in 2 years' time? What are my plans in 5 years' time? So evaluate your goals. Understand that if you've not infused technology into your goals today, then you will definitely not be thinking of how to solve it. So evaluate your current goals, evaluate your current operation, and try to align it properly. Once you've been able to do that, the next thing is, how do you start small? So starting small is very key. Sometimes when you think of technology and looking at the freight operation business, looking at everything, it looks big. There are different verticals, there are different things. I want to ship from here, there's cross-border. So when you think of all that, then it's overwhelming. You tend to feel that, oh, I don't think I'm ready to do this. But there are ways to get started. And most importantly, I think it's important to start small, right? So what does starting small mean? Starting small means just basically is just trying to pilot a particular part of your business. Okay, let's say I'm into shipments and I do cross-border and I also do freight forwarding. Okay, can I start with my local trips? Try to streamline my local trips and infuse technology into that local trip. With the partners who I've identified with, how can they help me get started? You can do a pilot with them, look at the solutions they provide, right, and move just a bit of your business on that platform and evaluate how efficient it is. Once you can do that properly, then you think of scale. So you don't have to think of, oh, I need to move my entire business or move my entire operation to a tech platform. And because when you think of doing that, it allows you it impedes you from moving forward. Essentially, you think that logistics itself, bringing technology is big. But once you start small, you'll be able to do things easily. I think I'm trying to move to my next slide. So let me just talk about, because I know I have very short time. So I'll quickly just talk about overall benefits of infusing technology into your freight forwarding business. Like I said, enhanced efficiency, cost reduction. You have real-time visibility. You'll be able to improve your customer satisfaction because once you have technology integrated into it, attend to your customers will be fast. In terms of scalability and flexibility, you'll also be able to scale your business at a certain point in time. You'll be able to do business with right partners. So think of it, I want to go on a global scale, and there are certain partners and certain businesses that you want to work with. Some of the requirements is that you have a tech platform, and this tech platform allows you to do this. Without you having a platform, you think, I don't think I can do business with this set of people because they seem advanced. But if you've started integrating this into your business, scalability becomes easy because you become forward thinking and you can strike the right deals. It also enhances in decision making because you have data at your fingertip. A lot of times we underestimate the importance of having data. This is one of the things that technology gives to you. With the amount of data that you gather when you're using solutions to man your business, you can make good informed decisions. Oh, do I go to this route? Where do I take my truck? What are the efficiencies of my trucks? What are the efficiency of my fuel? Do I use diesel? Do I use CNG? All those decisions help that you try to do manually. It becomes very easy because you'll be sitting on a lot of data which you can use to make informed decisions. In terms of risks and compliance, you also improve that sector of your business. There are tools that exist today that help you manage your risk and ensure that you are compliant with all your operation. It also gives you competitive advantage. Like I said, simplified collaboration, improved security because you're going to be able to track your goods across different stages in the logistic business. So here are the bit of things I think I want to should embrace technology, and together we would help transform the whole logistics sector in Nigeria. Thank you very much. I hope I spent the time. I didn't exceed the time.
Thank you so much, Engineer Tosin. And I must say, I like the set of speakers that we have today. You have been sticking very much to time, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you for that presentation. And like he has said, you don't have to start up with everything immediately. You can start with your local processes, evaluate, and then decide to scale up. But because the world is gradually becoming, I would not even say gradually, fast becoming a digital space, it is important that you infuse technology even into your logistic processes. Thank you for your time, Engineer Tosin Adeshibe, Chief Technologies Officer, Kobo Logistics. And also, keeping the logistics talk going, we will now listen to the Group Executive Director, Commercial and Business Development from NACO, and he'll be speaking to us on logistics and cargo handling. Very Sahid Lasisi, as he speaks to us on logistics and cargo handling virtually.
CEO of the Nigeria Export Commercial Council. Other dignitaries duly acknowledged and permit me to stay on those protocols because I have 5 minutes and I wouldn't want to wait 2 or 3 on recognitions, if you permit me. My name is Prince Sahid Lasisi. I'm the Executive Director of NACO PLC. And let me thank the lead paper presenter, Mr. Kola, where he has done a lot of justice to the topic. And from NACO point of view, we are just a business enabler, but we operate from the air cargo side. And a lot of people don't actually know how to go about, oh, can I export this by air? Everything has to go through container. And there are some particular goods that you can't do secret. You have to do air freight because of the nature, especially perishable, and items like vaccines or cosmetics. You can't put them on the container because if there's any force majeure on the sea, they tend to damage and they get rejected. So I remember vividly last week we started from headquarters. So now so the person doesn't even know what airline am I going to use, what are the procedures, how do I need to go about air cargo, what do I need? So the person just put all this in the truck and came to the cargo section of the international airport. So, and we have to now take and that's what we do at NACO. It's okay, madam, this is not the way. Where is this cargo going? Where is the destination? Say Kenya. Okay. The best aircraft, the airline you can use will be Kenya Airways in this regard. So we call Kenya Airways. We have to things that will be regular, maybe once in a month, and they can scale up. What is it? We're able to get the air freight, negotiated one, because of our relationship with the airline. So then all the other documents, you need to go through NAFDAC, this certification. We ensure this person passed through, get the custom, to stamp the document, the person get the airway bill, and the cargo were duly processed. And I'm sure the first shipment has gotten to Nairobi safely. So these are the little things that people actually don't know. And I'm sure at NEPC we have a desk, NACO we have a desk that we can actually guide people. We are doing air cargo, for example. These are the procedures you need to go. Fine, it might be, I have somebody doing up to 10, 15 tons every Thursday of vegetable to the UK. The person knows before you move that thing from your warehouse so that we don't have this issue of rejection, you have your preservation, maybe in accordance to the temperature of that particular farm item or farm produce. You put it there. Once you are ready to operate, the first thing you need to do is to book with the airline. Oh, do you have space for total number of quantity that I'm taking to this destination? If you talk to us at NACO, for example, we know the airline will can tell you. If we are not with the lady and the person goes to, for example, goes to Ethiopian Airlines, number one, you are paying more, and the last part of that good, you are extending it beyond necessary. Because if you get to Addis Ababa, you might wait for 1 or 2 days, or maybe a couple of hours before they can now put on the aircraft going to Nairobi. Whereas you can just do a 4-hour flight from Lagos direct to Nairobi. If you have actually spoken, so we're able to guide this particular person. Book with the airline. After doing that, come to NACO, do your packaging for you, but we have a processing center that will be then in conjunction with the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, ready to strictly for this perishable and farm produce. So we are about getting the approval from the Civil Aviation Authority and FAN to start using a dedicated gate. After we process and package, from this processing center, it's going straight to the aircraft. You don't need to wait for 1 or 2 days. And equally in that particular facility, we have these cold facilities, different temperature that we can even store 2, 3, 4 hours. So that when this thing is getting to the destination, it will be in the same condition and the acceptable limit that they are getting from that particular destination. With that, and there's this misconception that, air freight is very expensive. Well, no, we tell people it's not. It's just for you to actually know who and who you are talking to. Once we have the airline has been contacted, it's okay, we have this space on social day. Then bring it from your farm or from your old location, bring it to us. We can store in our cold room for you, also at subsidized rate. Then when the aircraft is on ground, within 1 or 2 hours, the thing is airbound to the destination. So I think this process needs to be communicated to be exporter that want to use air freight. That NACO and NEPC, we are here to assist you to ensure, in terms of the airport logistics, other government agencies that are NAFDAC and the rest, we work together with them. So, and if something is even coming from the NEPC or from the presidency, is of doing business, and maybe once in a while we need to be having this kind of webinar to actually tell people, if you want to do air freight, especially for this particular kind nature of good, come around, we'll work with everyone and ensure that your products get to the destination in the acceptable condition. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You promised to keep to time, and you did. And thank you for at least 5 minutes, as short as it was. You were able to touch on the important aspects that most of our participants will be interested in hearing. So now we know that there are storage facilities, so you can come, keep your stuff, they will handle properly, and put them in the right storage condition until the flight that is going to take up your goods, it's on ground. Thank you for those information and giving a bit of insight on cargo handling for air freighting, and also for pointing to the fact that it's not as expensive on hearsays. So we'll go on, and for another 5 minutes, we will listen to another authority that is very important in the logistics sector, and this will be a representative from the Nigerian Ports Authority, and he will be speaking to us on the roles of the Nigerian Ports Authority in export logistics chain. And he's into the operations department of the MPA. Please join me and also welcome virtually to speak to us for 5 minutes on the rules of MPA, Mr. Charles Okagaram. I hope I got that right. Mr. Charles Okagaram, please, you're welcome to take the microphone.
For creating this platform, and I bring you greetings, Madam Soho. Myself, I'm the General Manager of Operations, and my name is Dr. Charles Okaga. speaking to final bus stop for export shipment out of Nigeria. And what I would rather want to speak to what we have done in collaboration with other agencies like the Nigerian Customs Service, Nigerian Shippers Council, and most other agencies operating within the port to provide ease of doing export business. As we all know, in about 2 years ago, it takes about 4 to 5 weeks for exports to get into the port because of the situation of the port access routes. So as a measure towards resolving this problem, the authority introduced the electronic call-up system. I'm sorry, I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago before now. The electronic call-up system was introduced in 2021 with a view to improving ease of export going in and out of the port. And also introduce the use of other means of bringing export cargo into the port, particularly the use of barges, getting into the port from time to time. The other most very significant action that was jointly taken was the creation of a dedicated export command for the export logistics process in the Lagos area. So with this creation by resident customs, and then this has resulted to significant improvements in the volume of exports that has been leaving the country through the ports. We also have introduced a manifest, an export movement manifest in such a manner that on hourly basis, we move export on the road into the port on 10 trucks per hour. There could be reduction in those numbers, but on a daily basis, we ensure that this is kept. And also to reduce the problems of excursion and other types of disruption to the flow of exports, we ensure that we provide security escorts with motorcycles that escort exports into the port to avoid delays that are associated with the process. Furthermore, the Nigerian Port Authority organizes a monthly stakeholders meeting where everything that has to do with logistics issues are discussed. Exporters are active participants in this stakeholders meeting, and then all government agencies are also active participants. The transporters are also active participants, and with all of this, we have had significant improvements in the numbers that we have handled between 2022 to date. Because I'm to speak within 5 minutes, as stated, we are going to skip some of the points that we have taken down, but it is also important for us to mention some challenges. And the challenges that we have is that Nigeria is not a direct port call to most of the big liner companies. So when they take our exports, they take them with feeder vessels or transshipment vessels and now get to the main port that serve as their hub. It could take days, it could take a few weeks before the export eventually leave Nigeria. So we need more engagement to encourage as a nation, we need more engagement to encourage the liner vessels, liner companies to make Nigeria a direct port call. So that once an export cargo is loaded onto a vessel, the export cargo goes straight to its point of destination. We also have that was mentioned by my colleague from Shippers Council, how to do it, because we also have antics of truckers. You know, the way the logistics chain in the port, at times it takes 3 to 4 days to do all of this. And then we are also doing everything within our powers to see how to regulate these activities to reduce the impact of these antics. So it is important for us to talk about the export processing terminals. The export processing terminals were created pursuant to the executive order on ease of doing business, where the federal government had requested that the authority create special terminals for exports. It was not possible to have such terminals at the port, so the next option that we took was to have a point for consolidation, quality control, where examination can be before the cargo eventually leaves into the port. And that is for cargoes that are not from the DU or from any of the certified export warehouses. So what happens is, when they get to the EPTs, if they are from certified export warehouses, the EPT only serve as a frigate to take them into the port. But where they have not been examined and their quality confirmed, certification made, such functions are performed at the export terminal. During Mr. Export processing terminal, during Mr. Kolawale's remarks about overweight and the rest, we also wish to state that every EPTs as established now have weight bridges in an attempt for us to ensure that every cargo that is leaving Nigeria is in conformity with the requirement of the VGM, the verified gross mass from IMO, which is required for every vessel to have a weight certificate before any cargo is loaded onto the vessel. So there's quite a lot that we could have spoken to as an authority who is at that point that interfaces with everybody before a cargo leaves, but because of our timing, we would like to stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Charles Okaga, the General Manager, Operations of the Nigerian Ports Authority. And thank you for all the points that you alluded to. He spoke about some of the steps that have been taken all the way from 4 or 5 years ago to ensure ease of doing business. He said from 2021, they put in place the electronic call-up system, put in place the badges system, dedicated export commands in Lagos State, export movement management, and they hold monthly stakeholders meetings where they discuss issues that border around logistics. He touched on a few of the challenges that they face, the issue of the direct hub, the issue of storage fees that are still charged to the exporters, and a bit of the antics of the truckers. All of this he talked about and wrapped up with talking about the special terminals for exports and the advantages of some of these special terminals so that you would have your goods inspected and go through all the processes in those terminals before you proceed to the ports. That is, if you are not coming from any of the domestic exports warehouses or the export certified warehouses. So, well noted, well taken. Thank you, sir. I know that you were constrained with time, but we got some good information that we can build on. So for another 5 minutes, we are now coming back to on-site, and we will now be listening to the people that we have seated here physically with us. We apologize, we had to cut him short in the beginning when we had a technical issue and he had started speaking, but now is the time to get him back on to also feed from his wealth of knowledge. Given his position, we can tell that whatever he says here, we can take it home. So please, I would welcome to speak to us for the next 5 minutes. Now is the Vice President. Please let's make welcome with a very warm round of applause. Dr. Zaura Nuruddin Abubakar. You are welcome, sir, again. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Council, Mrs. Noye, Ayeni, and the entire directors here present, and every other speaker out there, and distinguished participant, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again. I had a prepared presentation, but let's looking at the time and all of that. But I appreciate the importance of this, particularly we're talking about logistics issue, as it contributes, to the international, the entire, trade of the country and the contribution to the Nigerian economy. So the perspective I'm going to take it from actually is more of the inclusive economy, especially the initiatives we are doing, at the federal government level, as well as the subnationals, in order to deepen Nigerian economy for the Nigerians' journey to $1 trillion economy, as it was being made available to the public by the Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, so you know that to achieve the $1 trillion economy, we know we have a lot of things to do. We have to double the, we have to, have a double-digit projection, as well as achieving, we have to do all the sectors to actually contribute to the Nigerian economy, because when you say Nigerian economy, we are talking about big parts, right? That every system has to function, for us to get there. So the initial, the current level where we are, we know where it came from in terms of the global challenges, the hardship and other challenges, which is, of course, is not only specific to Nigeria, the other parameters are actually there. So now we desire to have 7% economic growth, which, of course, the budget that was just presented yesterday by the president has actually alluded to that. So this administration, when we came on board, of course, in year one, we're doing a lot of reforms in order to ensure that Nigeria is back on its track, to take its leadership position, in the African economy, as well as the global leaders of the So the highlights of what we have, particularly, we know currently the economy, the GDP stands at somewhere around $372 billion, but we desire to achieve $1 trillion by the year 2030. So we have some years ahead. So for that reason, like I said, we have a lot to do. So looking at the imperative, if you look at the population, we are talking about having over 200 million people. Out of these 200 million people, we have over 40 million Nigerians who are currently unbanked, out of which 30 million are also in the, excluded, whether formally or informally financially excluded. You know the language of financial inclusion, where we have access to formal financial services, including the guys who are into export logistics and other initiatives that the CEO, NEPC also spoke about, which we are targeting, so that we can actually bring all of them on board, so that Nigeria collectively, we can achieve the journey of $1 trillion economy. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have quite a lot of opportunities, simply because, a lot of windows are available in terms of infrastructure, in terms of access to especially the internet, as well as mobile phones and all that. This brings opportunity, for especially the fintech guys who are doing very well locally and, of course, internationally. Just this morning, we are having a conversation with the CEO of Nigerian Export Promotion Council. She was telling me about a very fantastic initiatives you guys are putting in place in order to access funding, for the World Trade Organization and other international and multilateral organizations, in order to support our last mile. And the language of inclusivity is all about bringing all the parameters, all the economic sectors, poor, vulnerable people, youth, women, rural, urban people, people living in the rural areas, as well as MSMEs, in order for them to thrive. It is on record. MSMEs have played a very fantastic role. I could remember the World Bank report, where Nigeria is having, larger chunk of all the MSMEs that are playing in the African continent. That takes you back to the Nigeria's leadership, of course, in the African economic affairs as the giant of Africa. Again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there are a couple of risks, of course, that has already been alluded to by the previous speaker, so I don't want to take much on that, particularly in terms of the infrastructure deficit, as well as the export concentration in terms of oil and non-oil and all that. And I know that NEPC is doing a very fantastic job to see that how can we cross that borderline for us to get to the desired destination, economic and financial inclusion for growth. What are we talking about? We're trying to prioritize some areas so that there will be the language of inclusivity. Everybody, no one will be left behind. I think that's the standard. Standard in the sense that every economically active Nigerian should have a skin in the game, of course, for him to play in the Nigerian economic journey towards $1 trillion. How does it work? It's about, first of all, bringing them into the formal financial sector. But bringing them into the formal financial sector is certainly not enough, because there should be an enabler. So a question that a lot of people used to ask is that when you come into the formal financial sector, you open your NIN number, BVN, you open a bank account, you have access to insurance, access to whatever, you open an account. Then what next? Because there are lots of people that complain about having irregular income. I could remember 2023 FNI report that was presented in December last year. It says 49% of Nigerians actually complain about having irregular income. Of course, somebody in the last village, for goodness sake, for him to access financial service, he has to travel maybe like 100 kilometers away for him to access. I could remember 2015 when the central bank conducted a survey, and they realized about 239 local governments did not have access to financial access point. Even an agent or something like that was not available. I think those were some of the reasons why central bank engaged into a lot of initiatives to bring about like agent banking, services, tiered KYC, non-interest banking, right, and should not be left behind. I think were somehow addressed. As I speak with you now, a lot of also reforms are going on in that regard to ensure that this is achieved. So there has to be that easy access for financial service, and access to finance brings about economic activities. But for economic activities also brings about poverty, and those aggregation of those economic activities now talks about the GDP for the country, and that's exactly what we're doing everything possible in every sector of the Nigerian economy. Of course, today priority is about export, logistics, and other initiatives for the country. Gentle ladies and gentlemen, of course now we also have broad range of financial services, for them to be able to meet the needs of the people. What we're trying to say here is that access to financial services should be a demand-driven, meaning that people should be the one that will say, these are the kind of products we need, from the demand side, then the suppliers can now supply those kind of services. Why is it? So that it can be easy for people to participate in what is happening in the government. That's why this administration, I can always very proud to say, is a listening government, whereby we talk to people, first of all. When we talk to people who understand their needs, what exactly do they need before you come up with certain policies and programs. In this regard, I can give you an example. When we want to bring about flexibility in terms of margin, economic and financial inclusion for the country, on 20 and they participated in the program. Eventually, we ended the program. We want a situation whereby to do and be seen to be doing our own bit as government, because the government can only provide enabling environment, for you to succeed and thrive, right? So that's exactly what we did. So we signed an asset accord on economic and financial inclusion, and of course we elevated the conversation around economic and financial inclusion to the National Economic Council in order for every economically active Nigerian to have a skin in the game, for him to play in that space. And previously, I'm actually being very fast because of time. I don't know, you give me 5 minutes and I know I may have reached that time, but don't worry about that. Let me just try to land up somewhere. So when we have all of that initiatives, in order to ensure that people are actually carried along, particularly, women, youth, rural people, MSMEs, as well as regional issues. We have some regional imbalances, so that there has to be that kind of clarity. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is along this line that 30th January this year, 30th January 2025, we are actually coming up with a very global advocacy, which we call She is Included. What does that mean? We're talking about ladies, gentlemen, women, because you say if you empower a woman, definitely you are empowering the entire country or economy or the society, as the case may be. So in order to ensure that women are given access and opportunity, for them to thrive, and I'm quite proud of NEPC for what DG has, for what Executive Secretary just said about the initiative. I'm sure we're going to collaborate in going forward. We'll keep you. In the development, it's a very fantastic sector that can actually be. So the same way a survey was conducted for insurance sector, it also applies to other sectors. Agriculture, we have a lot of land, we have a lot of natural resources, mineral resources, mining sector is also there. So I can't not talk less of today's discussion, which is about trade-free area zone. Talk less of today's discussion, which is about trade-free area zone. That is NEFTA. And Sorry? It's also a big opportunity for Nigeria to take its leadership in the African context, tech space, and many other spaces. So that is why this administration is trying to create that window, for everybody to succeed. Journey to $1 trillion economy, I've just spoken about something like that. Socio-economic resilience, so that there would be some, spoken about something like that. Socio-economic resilience, so that there would be some certain, resilience, that is risk management procedures put in place to, I don't want to offend the MC, but finally I'm almost there. So now other aspect is, we're talking about the total group employment, economic diversification leading to achieving the national target. And what is the target at the moment? Achieving $1 trillion economy by the year 2030. So we have to, do more and more. I hope going forward, we're going to have opportunity to speak to you more and more in terms of what the government is doing, particularly within the space of economic and financial inclusion in order to get to that. This one is talking about the highlight of the ASWA Accord. I think I've already highlighted. Let me move on. Why do we come up with the ASWA Accord? I think basically it's just to tell you as per the demand side and then supply side of the economy in order to have the regulatory and policy reforms in order to achieve the objective. I think, let me be honest with you, even though I have just one slide to wrap up, I have to say honestly, the MC is sincerely not too nice to me, giving me 5 minutes, because what we just be talking about is something that is quite huge. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this administration is actually for you. We maintain open door policy. We're going to come at lots of reforms so that every economically active Nigerian should and will certainly have a right to participate in the economic activities of the Nigerian economy. I tried to bring the 8 items on the renewed hope agenda and align them with the ASWA Accord as well as the ultimate and the impact we intend to make, but we don't have much time. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Let me conclude here. Maybe if there's an opportunity to have an hour or two so that it can be the only topic, we can talk. You can ask me any question. I'm ready to answer you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zauro Nuruddin Abubakar. The speed you were going, speaking, I almost felt like coming to tap you and say, sir, take a breath. You can take your time. But it was, I know, we wish we could give so much more time, because that looked like a very rich presentation and so much to be talked about. But I'm sure, I trust my ED CEO, she will definitely create another opportunity for us to have more time and for you to take us really in depth and give it to us bit by bit. We're so sorry for the constraint of time, but we see the slides, we see the information there, and we know how important they are. Hopefully, in no time from now, maybe shortly after the launch of the global advocacy, we might have you back in-house again to speak to us. And I would also ask if it's possible to get the slides across. Maybe the Connect team can get it across to the participants. Let them also go ahead and study and get all those information. Journey to achieving $1 trillion economy. We're on it and we are moving. And with some of the things we have heard him outline, he kept using the word inclusivity. I'm sure if we put all those strategies to work, we would make that journey to the $1 trillion. One more time, please, let's appreciate him. Thank you very much, sir. And I'm just doing my duty. I was not trying to be strict on you. I'm trying to make sure that this event finishes in good time. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we go on again quickly. It now happens to be a 5 minutes kind of speech event because we are pressed for time. So in another 5 minutes, we'll be talking about achieving seamless export process. And this sector, or this arm of the government, is one that everybody's eyes is constantly on. And I dare say they get a lot of the questions from exporters. So we'll be listening to men of the Nigerian Customs Service, and we have the Assistant Comptroller sitting right here on the table, and he will do justice to this topic. Please let's make welcome to the microphone Assistant Comptroller of the Nigerian Customs Service, M.A. Haruna, as he speaks to us for the next 5 minutes.
Those online with us and those that are physically present, the NEPC family, our invited guests, that's our exporters and potential exporters, you're all welcome. I would also like to recognize my colleague here, Mr. Edache. So we got this notice yesterday, I think around 4 in the evening for this meeting. But being part of Nigerian Export Promotion Council, I've been in this hall several times for different forums. And I think we're part of the conference I held on the 12th and 13th of November at the State House, moving the country towards $1 trillion export economy, which I feel is very possible with all hands on decks. Nigerian Customs Service is an agency of government that is saddled with the responsibility of facilitation of trade, revenue generation, suppression of smuggling. So we are talking about export here, so it's part of the trade. But we facilitate what we call legitimate trade. Anybody into any form of trade that is illegitimate, be it import or export, we're going to pounce on such people. And going by the topic of presentation, that we're trying to achieve a seamless export process, looking at the keyword logistics. So when we look at the word logistic is not just at the point of having a truck to move your goods. Logistic has to do with the planning, the coordination, and the execution of activities related to transportation, delivery of goods from one country to the other. All processes involved from the beginning as an exporter to the point it gets to the ports, and to that point that we are partners with the Nigerian Export Promotion. We implement the federal government fiscal policy part that we do. We collaborate with all the agencies, the Nigerian Shippers Council, the Nigerian Port Authority, the Federal Minister of Trade and Investment, and to the President has mentioned earlier, the present governments are out for business and for serious business. And my Controller General, CGC Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, has picked his 3-point agenda from the 8-point agenda of Mr. President. That's the consolidation on successes that have been made, collaboration, that's what we're doing and what we've been doing all the time. Then we have innovation, the use of technology, which one of the presenters, or most of the presenters talk about the use of technology in promoting export in terms of oil and non-oil export. So, coming to a point of the collaboration that we do, the issue of how we can achieve that seamless export processes, we talk about almost all the presenters. So going back to them, I think we are going to just repeat what has been said. So the areas I'm going to talk about is the areas where customs have come in to simplify the process of export in Nigeria, to disband a witness of multiple custom taking points. The first thing, he disbanded the CGC strike force from all the 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, on the way. And I'm sure exporters are a living witness to that. First batch of containers under the AFCTA, African Free Container Trade Agreement, which Nigeria is a party to it, we have rectified it, that left to 5 African countries, which was the first batch. And the second one was that of the year that the presenter from the NACO has also, I think there were 56 countries that rectified the African Free Container. We had a national assignment that was called Operation Border Drill, Operation Swift Wheel, which was a national teamwork between the Office of the NSA, the Nigerian Customs Service, the Nigerian Immigration, and the Nigerian Army. It wasn't easy for Nigerians that were so used to foreign rice, but we said we must feed ourselves. And I can always remember this, if not for that bold step that was taken by government, what would have happened to us during COVID? This thing came on 2019. I think we had COVID 2020, 2021. If not because of that effort of Nigeria must produce what it will consume. During the COVID period, it would have been very hard on Nigerians that were so used to foreign rice from Thailand and other countries, and those rice were not something standard. Myself sitting here is 100 bucks. This year we had an issue with rain, that rain stopped for like 30 days, but harvest has dropped to like 60-something bucks. and what is the value of what comes out of that farming season. So the operation, while the border trade operation was also called off by the Office of the National Security Advisor in collaboration with the Controller General of Customs. So another multiple check barrier on the road for any movement of goods, be it import, export, has also been taken off. So for exporters, I'm sure anybody you see now on any highway in the uniform of Nigerian Customs Service is going to be federal operations. If you are within the Zone B axis, you see Zone B federal operations. If you are within the Zone A axis, that's the Southwest, you see the Zone A officers. And apart from that, the Controller General of Customs, in collaboration with the Nigerian Shippers Council, went and test run the DUE, that's the domestic export warehouses. The test running was done in 2 places. One was in Kano, and the other phase was in Lagos. We had representatives from my unit, that's the import and export unit. They went there and they saw how successful the project was. But I think the issue that was to be looked into was the issue of tracking of the cargo movement from the point of loading to the point of destination, that's the seaport. We also had the issue of the EPT. We were part of it, and we've dedicated a command for export. Before, export was done in multiple ports, but now we have a single command, the Lily Pond Command, that is being headed by area controller, which the advisor president has also alluded to that. That was also an effort to streamline export and to simplify the processes in export for exporters. So exporters, in making things very easy, we have the advanced economic operator, sorry for the time. It's also something that is being to help importers and exporters, the advanced economic operators. We have the advanced ruling. We have the time release studies, which has to look at the efficiency in movement of cargo, be it import and export. And I'm going to give our numbers for any inquiry. We have an email, we have phone numbers, and I'm also going to drop the presentation, 2 different presentations to the MC of the event. In case of any question and inquiry that has to do with customs.gov.ng, and we have phone numbers 020-188-98888. Then we have 020-1889-889. So these are numbers that you can reach at any time, and the emails are 24 hours. You can send in any query or an inquiry or any complaint you have that has to do with export that relates to customs. We have, our portal is integrated with a lot of regulatory agencies that are party to promoting how we can build and develop Nigerian economy to a $1 trillion economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assistant Controller M.A. Haruna. I thank you for all the issues that you highlighted and also educating us on what the Nigerian Customs Service is doing to simplify the export processes.
Thank you.
I didn't quite get the first number, but I go at customs.gov.ng. Does the custom have an S, sir? Customs?
Yes, there's an S.
There's an S at the end. So it's info@customs.gov.ng, pro@customs.1889. Please look at your screen. The ICT team will probably flash those, ask further questions and make further inquiries. So as we begin to wind down, we have just 2 items left for today's lineup of events. My next speaker, I would not use my language again, but you know what the deal is. So she's going to be speaking to us on her success story. She has worked with NEPC over a number of years in her business, and she'll speak to us a little bit to encourage people who are probably just starting out or intend to get into business formally, to encourage them with her own story. So she's here with us physically, and I'd like us to give a warm round of applause to welcome to the microphone the CEO, Box and Pick Nigeria. Her name is Ume Gabriela Nkiru.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be sitting before distinguished ladies and gentlemen and the Honorable Mrs. Noye Ayeni. I would like to say thank you for this opportunity, the CEO of NEPC, and every highly esteemed protocol duly observed here, virtually, physically, and my able attendees. Thank you very much for allowing me to share insights on my experience with NEPC and how they've been able to allow my organization scale in the export space. So I cannot say so much as regards my success story with Box and Pick, with the milestones NEPC have helped us to achieve. Right from when we started, which is we've been on for about half a decade, and NEPC has been one of the organizations that has held our hands throughout this process. We came here earlier, and I and my team went through the process of asking the right questions, and they put us through. We had assistance with materials. I will highly commend them mostly for even the women initiative programs that they've been able to put in place. Like the She Trades program, for instance, at the time that I came, it was really helpful. I also benefited from the ITC, that is International Trade Center. They have a lot of materials as regards export negotiations, market research, tariffs, everything you need to know as regards exporting. NEPC was there to give that platform. And as an ardent exporter wanting to know more about the industry, I made sure to follow the process and ask the necessary questions. So once again, thank you to NEPC for that lead. So far, NEPC has helped us in achieving great milestones, as I will mention now. In Box and Pick, we've been able to help and assist exporters export to over 150 plus countries across the globe: USA, China, products like sesame seeds, cocoa, groundnuts, and so many more. I can go on and on, but I don't have much in our own organization. So we have a training academy where we train upcoming exporters as well. So we transfer same knowledge NEPC was able to equip us with these exporters, and now few exporters have been able to scale their own exporting journey through this means. We've also been able to prepare packaging materials, because we noticed that the exporters would complain as to regards export compliance standards with packaging. So we had to make sure that we created things that would solve this problem, and not NEPC. We're also able to streamline through our experience businesses or vendors that are in exporters access these materials. So exporters have benefited from these ebooks. We also have ebooks on scaling exportation, learn how. What I can say is I'm glad that I am part of this project. I'm glad to be a partner of NEPC, and thank you so much for what you're doing for Nigeria and for exporters that are upcoming. And lastly, I would like to say here that the $1 trillion project, we are solidly behind you, and we are part of whatever it is you want us to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriela and Nkiru Ume. I like how you pitched that in at the end. It shows that you pitched that in at the end. It shows that truly you have worked with NEPC, because we know how to grab opportunities and make good use of them. So she touched on several things that NEPC has been able to help of the kind of steps to be trained to be able to achieve your goals, especially as we go into 2025. Thank you for allowing us to work with you and for working with us and gaining all the results that you have gained as the CEO of Box and Pick Nigeria. And so we have come to the last item on our lineup of programs today. I would just like to give a few instructions on how we'll roll down before I take off for the ED to take this microphone. So as soon as the ED is done with her wrap-up right now, we would have a group photograph with the ED and all the guests on the table here. We will stand up and have that photograph done. Once they are done with that photograph, the ED CEO will lead all the people on the table, the management team, and our facilitators outside with all the participants to have your group photograph right in front of the reception area. Please, as soon as you're done with that photograph, kindly come right back in to get your refreshments before you say your goodbyes. I'll go through it again. We have the wrap-up now. Then we have a group photograph with everybody on the high table. We have the second group photograph outside with all the participants seated in the hall. Then you walk right back in, get your refreshments, and then network, and we shut down for the day. So, right next up, we would welcome a very intelligent, hardworking, and can do its spirit goal-getter director of the Nigerian Export Promotion Council for the wrap-up. Please, with a very, very warm round of applause, let's welcome to the microphone the Director, Product Development Department for the wrap-up session, Mrs. Evelyn Obidike.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, everything that has a beginning has an end. On behalf of the Executive Director, CEO, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, Amiable Nonya Ayini, we want to say a warm thank you. First of all, Republic of Nigeria, Doctor, thank you for coming. We thank you so much. And having you here shows that NEPC has already keyed in, and we are marching forward. And we are ready to exceed the 1 trillion economy if allowed to do so. Thank you, Dr. Nuruddin. Thank you so much. Yes, you are allowed. Okay. So we are going to break the box and go higher. Our sincere appreciation goes to the directors, all the facilitators, those that are here present, and those that join us online. Thank you so much for enriching our knowledge and for coming out with practical steps. They gave out all they have. And we sincerely appreciate you and thank you for your time, for your effort, and for your commitment. We have a lot in store by next year. Not just only webinar, but there will be in-person, and there will be demonstrations, and there will be trainings. Make sure you key in, especially as we await. We await what we have already applied for, and we have been interviewed, the WTO World Initiative. I'm sure any woman that is watching us is already collaborating. It has been a very, very educative day, very, very enjoyable day. And we want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for coming, and compliments of the season.
Thank you so much, the director. Prostom gave us. They will direct it to the appropriate quarters and make sure you get an answer. So please, you can take down this email address at nepc.gov.ng. I'll take that one more time, our power. So like the director said, on behalf of the ED CEO and all the directors here seated, our facilitators, both those who joined us virtually and are here with us physically, and to all the participants, bless you and compliments of the season. Thank you.
They're taking pictures.
you.